also the previous lives. I read this book also in Europe. And now we are in page 126, chapter 2. So let's do it. Okay. So Winston picked his way up the lane through dappled light and shade, stepping out into pools of gold wherever he thought the roads parted. Under the trees to the left of him, the ground was misty and bluish. The air seemed to kiss one's skin. It was the 2nd of May. From somewhere deeper in the heart of the woods came the droning of ring doves. He was a bit early. There had been no difficulties about the journey, and the girl was so evidently experienced that he was less frightened than he would normally have been. Presumably, she could be trusted to find a safe place. In general, you could not assume that you were much safer in the country than in London. There were no telescreens, of course, but there was always the danger of concealed microphones by which your voice might be picked up and recognized. Besides, it was not easy to make a journey by yourself without attracting attention. For distances of less than 100 kilometers, it was not necessary to get your passport endorsed. But sometimes there were patrols hanging about the railway stations who examined the papers of any party member they found there and asked awkward questions. However, no patrols had appeared, and on the walk from the station he had made sure by cautious backwards glances that he was not being followed. The train was full of clothes, because of the summery weather. The wooden seated carriage in which he traveled was filled to overflowing by a single enormous family, ranging from a toothless great-grandmother to a month-old baby going out to spend an afternoon with in-laws in the country. And as they freely explained to Winston, to get hold of little black market butter, the lane widened, and in a minute it came to the footpath she had told him. A mere cattle track which plunged between the bushes. He had no watch, but it could not be 15 yet. The bluebells were so thick underfoot that it was impossible to tread on them. He knelt down and began picking some partly to pass the time away, but also from a vague idea that he would like to have a bunch of flowers to offer to the girl when they met. He had got together a big bunch and was smelling their faint, sickly scents when sound at his back froze him. The unmistakable crackle of feet on twigs. He went on picking bluebells. It was the best thing to do. It might be the girl, or he might in been followed after all. To look round was to show guilt. He picked another and another. A hand fell lightly on his shoulder. I cannot see myself. He looked up. It was the girl. She shook her head. No, thank you. Toda, toda. Thank you, thank you. He looked up. It was the girl. She shook her head, evidently as a warning that he must keep silent. Then parted the bushes. He led the way along the narrow track. Obviously, she had been that way before, for she dodged the boggy bits as though by habit. Winston followed, still collapsing his bunch of flowers. His first feeling was relief, but as he watched the strong, slender body moving in front of him with the scarlet sash that was just right enough to bring out the curve of her hips, his sense of his own inferiority was heavy upon him. Even now it seemed quite likely that when she turned round and looked at him, she would row back after all. The sweetness of the air and the greenness of the leaves daunted him. Already on the walk from the station, the May sunshine has made him feel dirty and etiolated, a creature of indoors, with the sooty dust of London in the pores of his skin. It occurred to him that till now she had probably never seen him in broad daylight in the open. It came to the fallen tree that she had spoken of. The girl hopped over and forced apart the bushes, in which there did not seem to be an opening. When Winston followed her, he found that they were in a natural clearing, a tiny grassy knoll surrounded by tall saplings that shut it in completely. The girl stopped and turned. "Here we are," she said. He was facing her at several paces distance. As yet he did not dare move nearer to her. "I didn't want to say anything in the lane," she went on, "in case there's a mic hidden there. I don't suppose there is, but there could be. There's always the chance of one of those swine recognizing your voice. We're all right here." He still had not the courage to approach her. "We're all right here?" he repeated stupidly. "Yes, look at the trees." There were small ashes, which at some time had been cut down and had sprouted up again into the forest of poles, none of them thicker than one's wrist. "There's nothing big enough to hide Mike in. Besides, I've been here before." They were only making conversation. He had managed to move closer to her now. She stood before him very upright, with a smile on her face that looked faintly ironical, as though she were wondering why he was so slow to act. The bluebell had cracked, had cascaded on the ground. to have fallen of their own accord. He took her hands. Would you believe, he said, that till this moment I didn't know what color your eyes were? They were brown, he noted, a rather light shade of brown, with dark lashes. Now that you've seen that I'm really like, can you still bear to look at me? Yes, easily. I'm 39 years old. I've got a wife that I can't get rid of. I've got varicose veins. I've got 5 false teeth. I couldn't care less, said the girl. The next moment, it was hard to say by whose act she was in his arms. At the beginning, she had no feeling except sheer incredulity. The youthful body was straight against his own. The mass of dark hair was against his face. And yes, actually she had turned her face up and he was kissing the wide red mouth. She had clasped her arms about his neck. She was calling him darling, precious one, loved one. He had pulled her down onto the ground. She was utterly unresisting. He could do what he liked with her, but the truth was that he had no physical sensation except that of mere contact. All he felt was incredulity and pride. He was glad that this was happening, but he had no physical desire. It was too soon. Her youth and prettiness had frightened him. He was too much used to living without women. He did not know the reason. The girl picked herself up and pulled the blue veil out of her hair. She sat against him, putting her arm round his waist. Never mind, dear. There's no hurry. We've got the whole afternoon. Isn't this a splendid hideout? I found it when I got lost once on a community hike. If anyone was coming, you could hear them 100 meters away. What is your name? Said Winston. Julia. I know yours. It's Winston Smith. How did you find that out? I expect I'm better at finding things out than you are, dear. Tell me, what did you think of me before the day I gave you the note? He did not feel any temptation to tell lies to her. It was even a sort of loving offering to start off by telling the worst. I hated the sight of you, he said. I wanted to rape you and then murder you afterwards. 2 weeks ago, I thought seriously of smashing your head with a cobblestone. If you really want to know, I imagined that you had something to do with it. The girl laughed delightedly, evidently taking this as a tribute to the excellence of her discourse. Not the thought police. You didn't honestly think that? Well, perhaps not exactly that, but from your general appearance, merely because you're young and fresh and healthy, you understand, I thought that probably you thought I was a good party member, pure in word and deed. Banners, processions, slogans, games, community hikes, all that stuff. And you thought that if I had a quarter, of a chance, I would denounce you as a thought criminal and get you killed off. Yes, something of that kind. A great many young girls are like that, you know. It, it's this bloody thing that does it, she said, ripping off the scarlet sash of the junior anti-sex league and flicking it on to a bow. Then, as though touching her waist had reminded her of something, she felt in the pocket of her overalls and produced a small slab of chocolate. She broke it in half and gave one of the pieces to Winston. Even before he had taken it, he knew that the smell that it was very unusual chocolate. He knew by the smell. It was dark and shiny and was wrapped in silver paper. Chocolate normally was dull brown, crumbly stuff that tasted as nearly as one could describe it, like the smoke of a rubbish fire. But at some time or another, he had tasted chocolate like the piece she had given him. The first whiff of its scent had stirred up some memory which he could not pin down, but which was powerful and troubled. Where did you get this stuff? He said. Black market, she said indifferently. Actually, I'm that sort of girl to look at. I'm good at games. I was troop leader in the spies. I do voluntary work the 3 evenings a week for the Junior Anti-Sex League. Hours and hours I've spent pasting their bloody rod all over London. I always carry one end of a banner in the processions. I always look cheerful and I never shirk anything. Always yell with the crowd, that's what I said. It's the only way to be safe. The first fragment of chocolates had melted on Winston's tongue. The taste was delightful, but there was still that memory moving round the edges of his consciousness. Something strongly felt but not reducible to define its shape, like an object seen out of the corner of one's eye. Aware only that it was the memory of some action which he would like to undo but could not. You are very young, he said. You are 10 or 15 years old. Sorry, 10 or 15 years younger than I am. But could you see that? But could you see to attract you in a man like me? What could you see to attract you in a man like me? It was something in your face. I thought I'd take a chance. I'm good at spotting people who don't belong. As soon as I saw you, I knew you were against them. Them, it appeared, meant the party, and above all the inner party, about whom she talked with an open jeering hatred which made Winston feel uneasy, although he knew that they were safe here, if they could be safe anywhere. A thing that astonished him about her was the poor sense of her language. Party members